Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from Imam Al-Ghazali's Jawah al-Quran. We are reading from the second section. So, going through Surah Al-Baqarah, we have already had two sessions, and the first one was about the first 5 verses. And we continue reading. We have read part of the verses 40 to 45. And to wrap up and connect the dots, the verses together, it's addressing the children of Israel, reminding them of God's favors that He bestowed on them, and demanding that they fulfill the covenant, their part of the covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will fulfill His covenant. This is very important. In fact, one can think of there's a hadith Qudsi. It's not addressed to the children of Israel, but the idea is that you do your part, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will even, of course, even the hadith here, that you get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by any measure, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will get even closer to you. So addressing the children of Israel by this name, and Israel in the Quran, of course, is Yaqub alayhi salam. And we don't have, of course, in the Quran any story like in that in the Old Testament about how he became known as Israel. There's a story of Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam, Jacob, Prophet Jacob, peace be upon him, wrestling at night before dawn, really, before the break of dawn, wrestling. The text has been interpreted as wrestling with an angel. In fact, the text is clear that he was wrestling with God, which is extremely problematic, even wrestling with an angel. And it seems that two things happened in that story in the Old Testament. The first one is that God hit Jacob on his the top of his thigh, and it said that as a dietary rule, from that moment, the children of Israel do not eat the lower part of the animal. So the hind legs, they don't eat them. So they eat only the front legs of the animal, whether it's sheep or calf, or they only eat the front legs. If you ask, what do they do with the rest? It's kind of I don't know how to describe this, but the meat truck that comes to East Jerusalem is full with hind legs. So now you know where these hind legs end up. The second part is that Prophet Jacob, Yaqub alayhi salam, did have a hold, like a lock on God, and he asked him. So God asked Yaqub alayhi salam to let go of him, citing that the day is going to dawn is going to break and people will see him. So he was embarrassed by what's going on, and he told him, Yaqub alayhi salam told him, I will not let you go unless until you bless me. So Yaqub alayhi salam extracted a blessing from God in exchange for releasing him. And here he became known as, as the end of the story, as Israel. So the children of Israel. I know the narrative is very problematic, but that's what it is. I was listening to watching really a video, a Jewish professor addressing Jewish audience, and he was saying to them that the Jews crowned God as God in Sinai. So they crowned God as God in Sinai, and none of the no one in the audience objected, or though I know very well, and you know very well, that if you have two, this is you learn from Jews really, that if you have two Jews talking to each other, you might get three opinions out of the discussion. No one objected. It's extremely problematic, especially that it took place at a Jewish institute entrusted with teaching Judaism, called the Shalom Hartman Institute. So the Qur'an is reminding the children of Israel with favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed on them, and demanding that they fulfill the covenant with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the asking them to believe in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, that which confirms the revelation that confirms the revelation that they have. And here we talk about the Qur'an is confirming the original message that they had. And as people of the book, they should be the first to believe, and not to be warning them not to be the first to deny, to reject. Do not be the first to deny them or trade them for a fleeting gain. وآمنوا بما أنزلت مصدقا لما معكم لا تكونوا أول كافر به ولا تشتروا بآياتي ثمنا قليلا وإياي فاتقون. And that would entail doing that which is good and avoiding that which is evil. Do not mix truth with falsehood or hide the truth knowingly. ولا تلبسوا الحق بالباطل وتكتموا الحق وأنتم تعلمون. There's a serious issue in terms of mixing truth with falsehood. For example, in the Old Testament, Sarah asked Abraham, peace upon them, Prophet Abraham, to take away Prophet Ishmael, to take him away in the, like literally far away, stating that the son of Hagar, meaning Ishmael, should not inherit with her son Isaac. It's very simple. She wanted everything for her son, for Isaac. For us Muslims, we have no ranking between Ishaq and Ismail. Ishaq is described in the Quran as a knowledgeable person. Ismail is described as a patient person who commands his family to pray. But we don't, our rights, our way of life is not limited. There is no such a relationship with the, like, it's not dependent on the genealogy, the offspring, the lineage. While we definitely cherish and celebrate the lineage of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the lineage from Ibrahim alayhi salam through Isaac, through Jacob, through the 12 tribes, and ultimately to the family of Al Imran. That line stops with, subhanallah, with Isa alayhi salam, no offspring. And thereafter, we are left with the other line, that which comes from Ismail alayhi salam, ending up with Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, why I mentioned the story of Sarah demanding that, okay, jealousy between when someone has more than wife, jealousy is expected. But the interpretation of the Jewish scholar is extremely problematic of that verse, demanding that Ibrahim alayhi salam would take away Ismail alayhi salam. It's almost like an expulsion. There are many details that one can speak about, but the idea here is that their interpretation, about 11 different interpretations, all of them attributing bad attributes to Ismail alayhi salam. That he's morally is bad for Ishaq alayhi salam. It gets even worse. So much so that some of those rabbis said that Ismail alayhi salam was a homosexual, so they were afraid. Subhanallah, astaghfirullah. As I said, it gets worse. That's one example of mixing truth with falsehood. Assuming that the statement of Sarah asking Ibrahim alayhi salam to take away, to remove Ismail alayhi salam from their life altogether. It was about inheritance. And if anyone follows the biblical narrative, will find that there is really insistence on the land being ultimately transferred from one hand to the other, the inheritance of the land. Beginning with the story of Nuh alayhi salam, Noah. How one was cursed and one was blessed, and one in between, neither blessed nor cursed. And a command to establish prayer, to pay almsgiving, and to bow down with those who do bow down. Do you preach righteousness and fail to practice it yourselves? Double standard. Entails also an element of hypocrisy. It should be one standard. If we talk about justice, same standard, same yardstick for everyone, which we do not see today, really, which we do not see. There are certain countries that are allowed to function above international law, granted that status, so they could go on in breaking the law, international law, violating human rights, committing genocide. Yes, double standard. And the last of these, this group of verses from is number 45, and seek help through patience and prayer. Indeed, it is a burden except for the humble. What do people do today? It could be yesterday. It's rather than trusting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fixing the relationship and repenting, and the nation state became the new idol. The golden calf is the nation state, worshipping the nation state, worshipping, and it's very, very self-centered to the degree of almost. It is very cultish too. It's very cultish. واستعينوا بالصبر والصلاة وإنها لكبيرة إلا على الخاشعين. That would conclude the first part, and that ends with verse 45. The next selection that Imam Ghazali did is verses 74 and 75. In between, there are many, of course, themes. There is another, almost immediately, there is another call on the children of Israel, verse 47. Again, reminding the children of Israel of God's favors upon them, that He bestowed on them. يا بني إسرائيل اذكروا نعمتي التي أنعمت عليكم وأني فضلتكم على العالمين. This is, of course, we have to contextualize this favoring the children of Israel. O children of Israel, remember the favors, all the favors I granted you, and how I honored you above the others, above the other nations, above. But this is not an absolute status. People cannot come today and say to us as Muslims, look in the Qur'an, you will see that God favored the children of Israel above the others. Yes, He did. And that's really past tense. It's conditional. For us Muslims, the one verse, for example, كنتم خير أمة أخرج للناس تأمرون بالمعروف تنهون عن المنكر. That verse, you have been the best ummah, not nation in the sense of nation state, but as a community of believers that was sent forth for the people. You advocate the good and prohibit evil. So it's conditional. It's conditional. It has nothing to do. Nothing is granted because of the name. Saying I am Muslim is not enough. And there is a warning. Guard yourselves against the day. A warning about the day of judgment, of course. The day. وَاتَّقُوا يَوْمًا. This is the day of judgment, on which no soul will be of help to another, no intercession. Of course, no intercession will be accepted if they continue to deny, to reject, and no ransom taken, and no help will be given. The intercession will be granted on the day of judgment to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but there are other. The Quran is clear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant others as well the possibility of pleading with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on behalf of another person, family, friend, on the day of judgment, of course. And it reminds the people, the children of Israel, about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them from the Pharaoh and the people of the Pharaoh, from the, of course, delivering them from the bondage, from the who afflicted them with dreadful torment, slaughtering their sons and keeping the woman. of course, for sexual exploitation. That was a severe test from your Lord, and they were saved. The numbers do not add up in the biblical narrative, for such numbers would have taken down the Pharaoh and his people. There's a sign, a miracle that took place. And remember when we parted the sea, rescued you, and drowned Pharaoh's people before your very eyes. There was a program that similar to the National Geographic kind of programs. They tried to understand what took place. Obviously, the those who were behind the program did not believe in divine miracles, and they wanted to explain this in material terms, uh, physical laws, and they ultimately came up with the idea that there must have been, if I remember well, 700 miles per hour wind that drove the body of water to one side until Prophet Moses and his followers crossed the now clear land. And once they were on the other side, the wind subsided, and by that time the body of water returned to its place, drowning the people of the Pharaoh. And one simple idea that I have had since then for many, many years: why didn't this wind 700 miles per hour? That's practically almost 1,000 kilometers per hour at any rate. Why didn't this such strong winds? Why didn't this wind blow away everyone, even when the wind is way, way, way weaker than this? It uproots trees and uproots houses and causes floods and the hurricanes. One can look at what took place, even just a little bit of rain. You can think about Valencia in Spain right now, Florida only a couple of weeks ago. And it's not about they did not want really to accept divine interference. And here we have Prophet Moses, peace upon him, going for 40 nights away from his people. And during this period, they have created the Samiri. He created for them a golden calf to worship. And still, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them. And the golden calf again, this is something that from the moment they have created all these nation states, that kind of nationalism that continues to create conflicts, wars, colonialism, death. So it seems that this is the new golden calf, really. But still, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgave them, and so that they may be grateful. And mentioning that, the story of Musa alayhi salam, Prophet Moses reprimanding his people for taking that golden calf. A very famous story is the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at one point on their way from Egypt, they were punished. They have dwelled in the desert for 40 years. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala still within these 40 years, he sent down to them the manna and quails, man wasawa, and at one point also they asked Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam for legumes, for alternative. They wanted legumes, they wanted onions, they at any rate, they did not want to continue with that food that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to them with with zero effort from them. A very remarkable verse that stands out is verse 62. Despite all that is going on, one needs to recognize that certain verses, such the following, does exist in the Qur'an. Indeed, the believers, in الذين آمنوا, that's one group. The Jews, والذين هادوا, Christians, والنصارى, the Sabians, والصابئين, من آمن بالله واليوم الآخر, whoever believes, of course, truly believes in the true sense of the word, in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the last day, وعمل صالحا, and does good, will have their reward with their Lord. فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. And there will be no fear for them, nor will they grieve. This verse should be understood in the light of verses so always one should include the verses as in Surah Al Imran, the verse إن الدين عند الله الإسلام وما اختلف الذين أوتوا الكتاب إلا من بعد ما جاءهم العلم بغيا بينهم ومن يكفر بآيات الله فإن الله سريع الحساب. Verily, religion, the accepted religion in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is Islam. So this would always include accepting the message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Suffice it, inshallah, we'll continue with this very same verse, inshallah, at the very beginning of the next session, بإذنه تعالى. Until then, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.